Hello friends, I am Jaideep Sharma from Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi. I am here to discuss a very important topic of library classification, that is systems and specials. While we discuss theory of library classification, at times it seems to be little abstract in nature. So, what I intend to do today is that I will be giving you examples and also show you the colon classification that was given by S. R. Ranganathan. By now, you would have understood that this colon classification edition 6th revised is something that we have been using for practical classification, though we all know that CC has also its 7th edition available, though while studying we use the 6th revised edition for applying it to classifying documents in libraries. So, one of the concepts that we often come across is called systems and specials. So, what is this systems and specials? Before we really go on to exactly systems and specials, we will go a little back to really contextualize this topic and understand why this concept of systems and special was given by Ranganathan. You all know that this dynamic theory of library classification was given by him. So, whenever we talk of any theoretical concept in library classification, we owe it to S. R. Ranganathan, the father of library information science in India. You all know that library classification has subject as the focus. We have been discussing earlier also in our earlier sessions that when we classify, we need to know the characteristic on the basis of which we classify, and in libraries this characteristic is subject. Now, what is subject? It is a little hard to define, it is a relative concept. Therefore, when we talk of subject, we talk of this subject from the point of view of disciplines. Disciplines means that the part of knowledge, that how we pursue this knowledge across different academic institutions. When we tend to know knowledge, when we tend to really gain knowledge, we do it from the point of view of a discipline. And when we talk of this subject classification that we do in libraries, we take care that we do it from the point of view of academic disciplines. And these academic disciplines in any scheme of classification are initially enumerated as main classes. Now, what are these main classes? Main classes have been enumerated in colon classification, though they have different names in other schemes of classification, but then this is a must for any scheme of classification. Particularly a scheme like colon classification, that is analytico synthetic scheme of classification, a classifier has to analyze the subject, has to identify the facets and analyze and synthesize them. Therefore, while doing so, he begins with the main classes. As is there in any other scheme of classification, you have to have a base on which you have to build. If it is a enumerative scheme of classification, the classifier just has to assign a subject which has been enumerated in the scheme of classification, but when we talk of colon classification, he has to analyze, he has to synthesize, he has to logically think about the different facets of his subject. Now, you might be wondering, I am making use of terms like facet, I will introduce, I will define for you all these terms. Now, till now we have to be sure, yes, what is a main class? This is the first division into which the subject can be divided into, and I told you that these divisions which are called main classes are pursued while we are in the educational system at different levels, and we call them by different terms. We call them disciplines, at time we call them courses, we call them subjects, and if you open up the Collin classification, you will find there is a long list of main classes, has been assigned notation of different types. I read out some of the main classes for you, like it could be the universe of knowledge. That means everything that is there in knowledge. It could be a part of this universe. One of the main classes is natural sciences, one of the main classes is arts, similarly social sciences. You have history as a main class, you have political science as a main class, physics, mathematics. So, I suppose by now you are all very well familiar with main classes. So, this is not difficult to understand. We will proceed further while really exploring what is this concept of system and special. As I told you that this library classification that we do is subject based, contextualized from the point of view of a discipline, academic discipline. Now, a subject has facets, and Ranganathan says that there are two facets in a subject. It is not necessary that always there are two, at least there is one facet, and this one facet that is always there in any subject that we come across while we classify is called the basic facet. The other facet that may be there in a subject is called isolate facet. Now, we have to know what is this basic facet, what is this isolate facet. I will again take you back. I said main class, and I also enumerated some of the main classes, and I said yes, these are subjects that we pursue while we study at different levels of education, starting from the lower to higher and the tertiary level also. Now, why do we need this another term that I said, the basic facet? It is known by different names at different planes of work. You would remember, you would recall, Ranganathan has given 3 planes of work: the idea plane, the verbal plane, and the notational plane. Now, we have to know, I said that I will tell you what is a facet. You have just now known that there can be 2 facets, basic and isolate. But what is a facet? I read out from the definition given by Ranganathan in his Prolegomena to library classification. You would have all seen Prolegomena to library classification, which is a basic for all of us students of library classification. It is the Bible of library classification. We should all read it, and I quote from this book the definition that he has given. It is a generic term. I quote, a generic term used to denote any component, be it a basic subject or an isolate of a compound subject, also its ranked forms, terms and numbers, unquote. So, what do we know from this definition? What do we get from this definition? That facet is a component of either a basic subject or a compound subject, and this facet could be either a basic facet or a isolate facet, and it is known as facet idea at the idea plane. It is called as facet term at the verbal plane and facet number at the notational plane. So, now I think it is quite clear that when we talk of a facet, we are basically referring to an aspect. This could be a basic aspect or it could be isolate, and when you talk of an isolate, it could be a compound subject, it could be a compound facet of which it is an aspect. Another term that Ranganathan uses while he talks of all these things is focus, and I again for you all read out from his Prolegomena. He says, I quote, a generic term to denote any isolate or any subject, and also the number representing any of them and the name denoting any of them. So, there is a little slight difference between a focus and a facet, and you would see it seems at times that both are same, but focus is an independent entity, whereas facet is a component, it could be part of a compound subject, whereas a focus is an isolate or any subject. It is known again by different terms in the idea plane and the verbal plane and notational plane. You might be wondering that I am still not including terms like systems and specials when I am talking, but yes, you do not worry, I am building on that concept, because now when you say that there is a focus, there is a facet, and we are trying to classify, and when we are classifying particularly for an analytical synthetic scheme of classification or understanding the theoretical nuances of classification, we need to know these terms, that is facet and focus, because this focus which is there, which we have identified as part of knowledge, need to be sharpened also. Now, we are moving towards the concept of system and special, because as I read out the main classes, some examples of main classes, these are all facets, these are all basic facets. So, every subject whatever you talk of has a basic facet, and one of these is enumerated as a main class. So, it could be a basic facet and it could be a main class is also a basic facet, but it could also be some other divisions of this knowledge not known as main classes, but still they are basic facets, and when you talk of amplifying these basic facets, you come across the concepts of systems and specials. Now, what do we mean by amplifying the basic facets, or you also call them sharpening the focus? And why do you need to sharpen the focus? Because this knowledge, it grows on and on, we keep on adding to what we know, and this is expressed as sharpening the focus. When I say basic facet, I said every subject has a basic facet, but beyond them also there might be facets which are a result of sharpening the focus of this facet, particular facet or aspect. So, we always sharpen, and by sharpening we increase the intention of that concept. It could be basic facet or isolate facet. So, sharpening means we are going further in depth into that concept. We are sharpening the focus means we are going further in depth, we are going deep into the intention of that subject, and that could be again a basic facet or a isolate facet. When you talk of that, we get into the concept of systems and specials, and we are moving towards that. So, we sharpen, we increase the depth, or we go further down into that subject, and we may combine them, resulting into a compound facet or a compound isolate idea, or it could also be a complex idea. Basically, you all know that there are three types of subjects: basic subject, compound subject, complex subject, and basic subject corresponds to the basic facet, and in case the basic facet along with the isolated facet join, we result into a compound subject, and when two basic subjects or a basic subject and a compound subject interact with each other, we result into a complex subject. Now, these are known by basic class at the idea plane, basic subject at the verbal plane, and basic class number at the notational plane. Mind you, I have stated earlier that there are main classes and these are also basic. In addition to them, there are some other basic facets also in a subject. So, let us move further. Now, I have already told you that these basic facets, the facets of a basic class, are derived on the basis of applying characteristics that are common to them. Technically, we say that it is derived from a single train of characteristics. Like I give you a very simple example, I have a huge collection of books on literature, and I want to organize them, and I realize yes, the first train of characteristics that I could apply on this collection of literature could be the language. So, this is language is one single train of characteristic, this is one facet. Similarly, it could be other facets also. If I talk of medicine, it could be organs, that is a single train of characteristic, that is one facet. So, this is how you define a facet. Now, isolate. Isolate, I told you that in addition to basic facet, there is an isolate facet, and what is an isolate facet? We say it is an idea thought of in isolation. When combined with a basic facet, it gives a context, we are able to contextualize the subject and it results into a compound subject. Now, this is known by isolate idea at the idea plane, isolate term at the verbal plane, and isolate number at the notational plane. And you would see, if you open up any scheme of classification, you would see that you have isolate ideas enumerated in one column, and parallel to them on the left hand side you would find that there are isolate numbers that have been given. So, these are all there in different schedules of this scheme of classification that have been given there. Now, we all have also now by now known that when these basic facets are joined with the different isolate facets, we result into compound classes. Now, a basic class could be amplified by addition of further facets into it, and such classes are called amplified basic classes, and systems and specials are examples of amplified basic classes. So, now we have reached the concept of system and special. I would again recapitulate for you, because it is a little difficult to understand. I would like you to understand the concept behind it, the context behind it, that I again begin that any scheme of classification, though in a enumerative scheme, it is not much of an issue, because all subjects of today, tomorrow are all enumerated there along with their notation, but in an analytico synthetic scheme of classification like the Colin classification, you do not have them. As a classifier, you have to analyze the subject, you have to synthesize the different components of the subject and assign notation to them, and in that you have to identify the main class, you have to know the basic facet, and in case there is a amplified basic facet also, you have to understand that too. And an example of an amplified basic facet is a system, another example of an amplified basic facet is a special. So, when you classify, at the first step you should be able to, by seeing the subject of the document, by knowing the subject of the document, which you have to ascertain. Not every document explicitly states the subject of the document. It may be stated, it may not be stated, though in the very first step we try to understand the subject of the document and try to find out to which main class it belongs to. After identifying the main class, we will reach that main class and we will find that it has been further subdivided, and it has been subdivided like if you see here, I show you this is a class called engineering, and you will find that it has been further subdivided and into different facets and so on. But there are certain classes where you will find that it has been subdivided on the basis of canonical divisions also. So, in addition to the main classes, there are canonical divisions. Now, what are these canonical divisions? Canonical divisions means traditionally we divide a subject into different parts. Like I give you a very simple example. When we study mathematics, how do we study? We say this is arithmetic, this is algebra, this is trigonometry, geometry, solid geometry, like that. So, these are all canonical divisions of mathematics. Similarly, you find in the scheme of classification also, beyond the main class you will find the canonical divisions have been given. Chemistry, inorganic chemistry, organic chemistry, analytical chemistry, these are all canonical divisions, means the way we study that subject. So, this is in the first instance that subject has been divided into canonical divisions. But then at times you have alternative philosophies also, alternative thoughts also in a particular discipline, and these are nothing but systems. So, this system Ranganathan has said is a amplified basic class kind 1. The example that I have given you right now of a system has been identified by Ranganathan as a amplified basic class kind 1, and it says that it is a facet that expounds the subject according to a particular school or system of thought. It is called amplifying facet kind 1 or systems. I give you another example of a system, like you all know that when you in medicine there are different schools of thought, and the most prevalent is the allopathy. This is a school of thought, this is a philosophy, and this is one of the systems, though not enumerated as a system, because this is the accepted system, this is the most popular system. Therefore, Ranganathan does not enumerate it as a system. It is assumed that when you talk of medicine as a class, as a subject, we are talking of allopathy. This is the favored system in the terminology of Ranganathan, this is the favored system. But there are other schools of thought also, like Ayurveda, like Unani, homeopathy. So, these are all different philosophies or schools of thoughts in the discipline medicine, and these are all examples of amplified basic class kind 1. So, as students of classification, we should first of all understand this concept of system. So, now till now we have now understood that the system is an example of a amplified basic class kind 1, which is created on the basis of a particular school of thought, a particular philosophy in a particular subject, in a particular discipline. If I would like to give you some examples, if you open up colon classification, you will find all these examples, like in medicine it is homeopathy, which has been given notation L L. Similarly, naturopathy L M, Ayurveda L B, Siddha L C, Unani system of medicine L D. You might be wondering what is this? You know, in medicine, you all know medicine means L in colon classification. So, they have added some other Roman letters along with this L, and these are on the basis of their origin or birth of that school of thought. This is basically the use of chronological device that Ranganathan has made. He has been very systematic, he has assigned notation which is mnemonic in nature, which is very logical and systematic. So, he has arranged this in order of their origin or birth, and accordingly he has assigned notation A, B, L, C, not A he just assigns for systems, but then he uses different notation for different systems in medicine. Similarly, if you see in mathematics, he says systems of algebra B2A, algebra is B2. So, for systems of algebra he uses B2A, systems of geometry B6A, and just now I pointed out that A he has reserved for systems, but when he mentions different systems he makes use of different alphabets, and for that it is on the basis of their origin. Similarly, elliptic he says B6M3 and hyperbolic B6M5. Now, systems compound basic subject, if you see the example of physics, he has given examples CK gravitation theory, CM kinetic theory. Now, C is physics, again on the basis of chronological device he has given this notation. Relativity, you all know that Newtonian mechanics is one school of thought, relativity is another school of thought. So, he has given for relativity C n, quantum theory C n 1, wave mechanics C n 2 or statistical mechanics C n 2. So, this is how. Now, similarly, you all know in agriculture also you have different schools of thought like soilless and dry farming, he has put that under systems. Similarly, forestry J B. If you go to psychology, you will find examples like psychoanalytic S M 9, similarly behavioristic psychology S N 1. So, these are all schools of thought that have come up, and similarly in education he has given examples like Montessori school T N 1, basic or Vardha education T N 3. So, these are all examples of systems. When you talk of specials, special means you are limiting your study, your vision towards a particular group of clientele only, and that is what is specials. So, Ranganathan says if the exposition of a basic subject is limited to a limited range only of any of its facets, its basic class must be fitted with an amplifying facet of kind 2, that is called specials. Again I give you very simple examples. When again from medicine, you talk of medicine for a particular group of people, that means for children it is called pediatrics. Similarly, gynecology, old age medicine, all these are example of specials. So, Ranganathan has made use of notation wherein he denotes these by a 9 followed by a Roman letter, and I read out some examples for you of specials. Like in medicine he says embryo L 9 B, child medicine L 9 C, and adolescent medicine L 9 D. You would see that he had made use of this 9 and to some extent the alphabetical device also, and similarly he says for female medicine L 9 F, tropical medicine L 9 H. See, you are limiting yourself to a particular group only, and similarly he says war medicine L 9 V, aviation medicine L 9 T. In biology, life sciences also there are examples of specials like you have G 9 C child, G 9 E old age, and similarly in psychology and other examples you find of specials. Now, when you assign class numbers and you have with you in your subject, the subject of the book is so that you have systems and specials in the subject, then the class number should begin with systems, that is the rule. So, as classifiers, whenever you come across a document which has the aspect system, you should initially assign the notation for system. If it has both system as well as special, then system followed by special. Like I give a very simple example, gynecology according to Ayurveda system, the number becomes L 9 B, 9 F colon 4. L B is Ayurveda, comma, the system and special are separated by comma. So, L B, 9 F, 9 F is female medicine, colon 4 disease. So, gynecology according to Ayurveda. Similarly, treatment of child diseases in homeopathy. Now, homeopathy is L L and child disease is L 9 C. So, it becomes L L, 9 C colon 4 colon 6. Similarly, teaching techniques in Vardha system. Now, Vardha system is T N 3 and teaching techniques is energy facet colon 3. So, it becomes T N 3 colon 3. Naturopathy for old age diseases, again old age diseases is L 9 E, whereas naturopathy is L M. So, number becomes L M, 9 E colon 4. So, we have understood that the systems and specials are examples of amplified basic classes kind 1 and kind 2, and they are required to express a particular school of thought or a philosophy in a particular discipline or subject, and a particular that is system, and in a special it is a particular class, it is a particular group, it is a particular aspect only that you are studying, that has to be expressed. It is expressed as a special, it is a amplified basic class kind 2, and they have specified notation that have been given by Ranganathan, and in the schedules you will find they are all enumerated there. And how do you identify them? That all systems have been assigned along with the main class the a Roman capital letter that is indicative of the use of chronological device. So, it is the origin or epoch of origin of that particular philosophy or school of thought that is indicated by that single digit. Whereas, specials, Ranganathan makes use of the Indo-Arabic numerals and Roman alphabets in continuation, and when you have to assign a class number to a particular subject which has both of them, system and special, you have to begin with system with a comma followed by special, and if there is a personality further, you go on as per the rules of the postulational approach PMEST. So, I think by now you would have really understood the concept, and you would be able to apply these concepts when you classify documents having systems and specials. Thank you.